The following program, NORML Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting NORML.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of NORML Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of NORML. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents NORML Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, NORML's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
All right, everybody, welcome to this Tuesday, January 26, 2010. It's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville. Welcome to another 60 minutes of news, interviews, comedy, music, and talk, all by, for, and about the cannabis community. We are so happy you are joining us here today. We've got a big show planned for you. And joining me from 90 miles away via the magic of Skype, my half sister, Cannabis Carrie.
Hey, Russ, how's it going today?
It is a very, very fine Tuesday. We are certainly having a good time here. I'm still basking in the glow of my Huffington Post piece from yesterday. We're having a really good time. All sorts of great guests on today's show. We've got Dee Duffy and Sabrina Fendrick from Virginia NORML. Yes, Virginia, there is a Virginia NORML. They'll be joining us to talk about a very important hearing taking place in the State House in Virginia, in Richmond, just tomorrow. So activists in the Virginia area, you'll want to get involved with that. Also, we have our California Marijuana Report featuring Eric Brenner. Eric will be bringing us an interview with LA's dopest attorney, Allison Margolin. So stick around for that interview. And toward the end of the show, some government at work. We'll be speaking with a senatorial candidate for the Indiana State Senate, Jeff Ellison, and his pro-marijuana views. And Cannabis Carrie, of course, will be joining us with the news right after our first break. What do we got looking forward to our news stories today, Carrie?
Oh, well, there's a disturbing story out of California about some students that got in trouble with some brownies. I'm going to talk about Washington State advocates and their hopes for this year. And we're going to talk about a Virginia delegate, a Republican, who is for decrim.
All right. Great stuff coming up in our hemp headlines right after the break. Want to remind you that we are blogging at the Stash blog. You can catch us at stash.normal.org. And we got plenty of stories there. You can register for an account, leave your comments, and get involved with the conversation. Also, all of the stories that we cover here on NORML Show Live, we blog about them there at the Stash. So if you need the hyperlinks to all the studies and news reports to help make your case for ending adult marijuana prohibition in your area, that's where you'll find it at stash.normal.org. You can also follow me for breaking updates on Twitter. Just follow Radical Russ and tell all your tweeps to do the same. And we will keep fighting for the end of adult marijuana prohibition in the United States of America and throughout the world. Also, if you're listening to us through live.normal.org on our Stick'em stream, make sure to mark the show as one of your favorites and add me as your friend. We'll get this network started up real big and we will take over the world. Our goal here is to get ourselves on the mainstream media airwaves, so we're doing everything we can to build the audience to make the proposition to those mainstream media outlets out there. Satellite radio, terrestrial radio. If you've got any questions or comments, send me an email at stash@normal.org. We'll be right back after these messages. Please patronize our sponsors. We'll talk to you in a minute.
You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford. from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 13 states today, and THCF has clinics in 8 of those states. Our doctors help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms such as multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help you obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, Montana, and now Michigan. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
You want to legalize it? Call your congressman today. 202-224-3121. It's free, it's easy, and you don't even have to give your name, just your zip code, and they'll hook you up to your congressman. Call 202-224-3121 and tell Congress you support marijuana legalization.
Liberate your mind. Liberate your mind.
That's right. Liberate your mind every day here with Normal Show Live, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We cover the cannabis community like nobody else. Make sure you join us every weekday and tell your friends.
Liberate your mind.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's Normal News with Cannabis Carrie.
CBS News has picked up a story out of Union City, California, where 5 high school students have become dangerously ill after eating tainted brownies. The students thought they were buying brownies containing marijuana, but an investigation is now underway to determine if they were laced with heroin. Now, the incident happened last week and has put parents and teachers on alert. The school district used an automated phone call on Friday to advise parents of the situation. In the call, the district says it is waiting for toxicology reports and a police investigation to tell them exactly what it was made from that made the students so sick. Students are saying that the sickening substance was heroin, and some parents aren't overreacting to the news. One grandfather said that his granddaughter is smart enough not to get involved in anything like that. But the image of police, ambulances, and 6 students have other parents up in arms over the incident. Union City Police say they are still investigating the case and cannot confirm that there was heroin in the brownies just yet. They can't even confirm that every student who got sick was a student that actually ate one of the brownies. The only thing that they are saying is that there was a spike in medical emergencies at the school last week. Now, the students are in trouble for purchasing and ingesting the marijuana, and all 5 of the students who got sick last week returned to school today.
Heroin brownies. This has got to be the first time I've ever heard a story about heroin brownies. What a terrible way to mess up brownies. You know, it's cases like this that always make us look bad in the marijuana community. And, you know, I always hate to see stories like this where people are going to conflate marijuana with heroin, or we had, you know, the stories of people lacing joints with crack or whatever, you know, or PCP or whatever. It's always the downfall of cannabis is when it gets linked to all of these hard drugs. And that's one of the problems of adult marijuana prohibition is it puts cannabis in the same category as Schedule I drugs, like LSD, like heroin. And it makes it harder for especially young people to differentiate how one is pretty much a benign medical herb and the other one is a highly addictive illicit street drug. And these stories come out and they always make us look bad because they can't make us look bad if they just focus on the cannabis, because we all know how wonderfully non-toxic and effective cannabis by itself can be. Oh, I was expecting Carrie for the next line there, but we seem to...
I'm sorry, Russ.
Oh.
I'm right here.
Oh, sorry about
Washington
that.
State advocates are not giving up after the death of 2 cannabis bills died in committee last week, one to decriminalize and another that would legalize cannabis for personal use. Proponents are now looking to change the laws via the legislative process that is lingering in the legislative upper chamber. Senate Bill 5615 would make possessing a small amount of marijuana a civil infraction subject to a fine. The measure made it out of Senate committee last year, and it has now been refiled. Passing the bill could save state and local governments $16 million annually and raise money that could be used for drug treatment programs. The sponsor of the bill, SB 5615, Senator Jeanine Cole Wells, a Democrat from Seattle, said she was hopeful her chamber might vote on the measure in the next few weeks. It currently sits in the Senate Rules Committee, which Cole Wells is a member. Monday evening, in an interview with the Seattle PI, she says that she is planning on pulling the bill to the Senate floor for a vote. We have to see if we have the votes. I think it will happen. It has controversy, of course, but I think it also has a lot of support. Washington voters may still get a chance to weigh in on the matter this fall as signatures are being collected for a citizens' initiative legalizing marijuana that they hope to have on the November ballot. A recent poll found that Washingtonians favor removing the pot prohibition laws.
You know, of course they do. They live up here in the Pacific Northwest where the finest cannabis on the planet is grown and consumed. You know, folks, a lot of people get their hopes up when they see a bill making it to a committee in a state house, like what has happened in Washington, California, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. And I don't blame people for getting their hopes up. I blame our American education system for not informing people as to our political process. A lot of folks don't realize how tough it is to pass a law in the United States of America. First, you got to introduce a bill. You got to find someone who will sponsor it in most of your state houses. Next, it has to go to a committee which looks it over, and that committee can either not hear it or they can vote it down. If it passes that committee, it oftentimes goes on to a second committee, which can choose to not hear it or can choose to vote it down. If it gets out of that committee, it goes to the full assembly or legislature, in which case the speaker of that assembly or legislature can choose not to bring the bill up. But if they do bring the bill up, it can go to a full vote, and in that full vote, it can be voted down. But if it makes it through that full assembly, then it can go to the Senate side. In the Senate side, they put together a committee which can not vote for it or not hear it. Or if it gets past that committee, it goes to a second committee, which can do the same. And if it makes it past those two committees, it can get to the Senate floor if it's brought up for a vote. And if it's voted for, then the bill from the Assembly and the Senate are put together in a joint committee, yes, a joint committee, to work out the differences between the two bills. And if that gets through that committee, it then goes back to the two houses, the Assembly and the Senate, except for in the case of the unicameral legislature in Nebraska. But it goes to the two legislatures, and if then they both vote for it, it then goes to the governor who can veto it. So folks, when something gets past a committee, it's a good thing. It's wonderful that we're making progress, but understand it's a baby step toward legalization. That's why I'm more excited about the citizen initiatives in the 26 states that allow them. In Washington and California, and coming soon in Oregon, there'll be initiatives to legalize, tax, and regulate the adult use of cannabis. And this kind of puts a fire under the legislators to do something about it before the citizens do, right? It's like our way of saying to the politicians, hey, if you want to discuss this and come up with some reasonable regulations for adult cannabis use, we're already here to talk about it. But if you're not going to do it, we'll be glad to do it ourselves, and you'll get no say in the matter.
And Virginia Delegate Harry B. Morgan, a 31-year member of the House, is speaking out about cannabis. Now, Morgan, who is a pharmacist, is the second most senior delegate in Virginia and said he thinks criminalizing pot has done nothing to curb its use. The 79-year-old, well-respected Republican delegate from Gloucester County has sponsored a bill that would allow medical marijuana, but he is also proposing that the time is right to decriminalize after the failed attempts at outlawing the substance. The often bow-tie-wearing Republican delegate has also sponsored a separate bill that would allow medical marijuana. The Washington Post reported on an earnest and well-attended news conference held last Wednesday where Morgan said doctors who are accustomed to weighing the risks and benefits of drugs should be able to prescribe marijuana in instances where research has shown it to be medically effective. When he began to discuss decriminalization, Morgan distributed a list of jobs at the press conference that someone with a drug record is permanently barred from in the state of Virginia, including teacher, pawnbroker, and taxi driver. He said the state could save millions during the budget crisis by relieving the jails of those incarcerated for marijuana possession. Under Morgan's proposal, possession of less than an ounce of marijuana would become a civil offense, punishable by a $500 fine. It would allow the cultivation for up to 5 plants for personal use, and it would remove the mandatory sentences for marijuana crimes. Morgan said his bills have been viewed largely with amusement by his Republican colleagues. Some have taken to holding pinched fingers to their lips to mime smoking a joint as they pass him in the hallway. Others have been plotting to hang a bow tie festooned with cannabis leaves on the doorknob of his General Assembly office in the dead of the night. Morgan, admired by his colleagues because of his long years of service and genial nature, said he would stick with the issue, saying, "I think that if they will take the time to see the information that I have, they will take it more seriously."
Oh, my God. What did you say this guy's full name was again?
It's Harvey B. Morgan, a Virginia delegate.
Harvey Morgan. I thought it was Harry Morgan, the guy that played Colonel Potter on MASH, so I was a little confused there.
They look similar, Russ.
Look alike?
Easy mistake.
So they're making fun of this guy. His fellow legislators are making fun of the guy for bringing up the idea of changing our stupid marijuana laws. It just goes to show you, how far behind the American people the politicians are on this particular issue. When we talk to the American people, we are now getting 81% support nationwide for medical marijuana. Not just California, not just the Northeast, whatever. Nationwide, 81% for medical marijuana. And in that 81% of those people who support medical marijuana, 56% of them believe that a doctor should be able to recommend medical marijuana for any illness he deems appropriate, just like it is in California under Prop 215. Another 21% of those people who support medical marijuana support a style kind of like Oregon, where there's a list of qualifying conditions, but you don't have to be terminally ill to get on that list. If you do the math, that works out to about 62% of the American people overall. 62% of the American people overall who support medical marijuana programs as good as Oregon's or better like California's. It's about time the politicians stop making fun of this issue before we start voting them out of office.
It only comes twice a day, but I don't care. It's 4:20 somewhere.
All right, it's time for NORML's Cannabis Community Calendar, which you can find at norml.org/calendar. On Wednesday, January 27th, it's Weed Wednesday in Kansas City. Kansas City NORML will be on 90.1 FM KKFI live from Kansas City, Missouri, or streaming live at kkfi.org on the last Wednesday of every month. For more details, check out kcnormal.org. On Thursday, January 28th, the University of New Hampshire NORML will be having a meeting at the MUB Room 321. For more information, check out the Cannabis Community Calendar or email me at stash@norml.org. Also, on Thursday, January 28th, Cal State University Fresno NORML is having their meeting at the USU Building, Room 309. For more details, send me an email at stash@norml.org. On Friday, January 29th, Philly NORML is having their 2010 kickoff fundraiser featuring special guest NORML founder Keith Stropp. Also appearing will be Chris Goldstein and plenty more from Philly NORML and some great bands for the fundraiser. For more information, check out phillynormal.org. On Monday, February 1st, Southfield Compassion Club will be meeting at the Southfield Community Library in Southfield, Michigan to help out medical marijuana patients. For more information, check out southfieldcompassion@gmail.com. It's a NORML shout-out. All right, time for a quick NORML shout-out. I'm shouting out to the state of California. I'm trying to get volunteers who are eager to help California NORML with some of their paperwork and accounting and all the little different things you have to do through email and chat that take so much time for the hardworking folks at California NORML. If you are a reliable IT-savvy person and would like to help California NORML, send me an email at stash@norml.org. We got to take a break. We'll be right back after these messages. You know what time it is, especially if you're out there on the East Coast. Have yourself a good one. We'll be right back with Virginia NORML on the line.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support NORML Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would tell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
law420.com.
Hello, I'm Russ Belville, Outreach Coordinator for NORML. In my job, I read literally hundreds of headlines each month involving nonviolent, productive citizens whose lives are ripped apart by a marijuana or drug arrest. Many citizens could avoid arrest by refusing police searches and remaining silent, but police are well trained to confuse and intimidate. That's why you have a right to speak to an attorney before answering any police questions. I hope you never need to exercise that right, but if you do, make your first call to the law offices of John C. Lucy IV. John Lucy is an accomplished criminal defense attorney with expertise in Oregon's medical marijuana law. John Lucy understands and respects cannabis and drug consumers of all backgrounds. Call John C. Lucy IV at 503-227-6000 or visit in downtown Portland. Address available at law420.com. That's John C. Lucy IV at 503-227-6000 or visit law420.com today.
76% of Americans no longer support arresting and jailing marijuana smokers, and nearly as many support the medical patients having access to medical marijuana. And over 80% of our citizens now believe the war on drugs is an ineffective failure. So the question is, when will the government's misguided war on adult marijuana smokers finally end? When? Simple. When you and your like-minded friends, family, and coworkers get involved with an organization such as the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, also known as NORML. My name is Keith Stropp, and I founded the organization in 1970. Contact us at NORML, toll-free, 888-67-NORML, or by visiting the organization's up-to-date webpage at www.norml.org.
All right, welcome back to the show, NORML Show Live. Unfortunately, we're unable to get the folks from Virginia NORML on the line right now, but I do have the information they wanted to pass on for everyone, kind of part of our cannabis community calendar. This is a note about the members of the Virginia House Courts of Justice Criminal Subcommittee. They are scheduled to hear testimony on Wednesday in favor of House Bill 1134, which seeks to dramatically reduce the state's marijuana possession and cultivation penalties. Representatives from NORML's national staff and state affiliate, Virginia NORML, you can find out more at virginianorml.org, will be in attendance and testifying in support of this measure. You can read NORML's written testimony to the subcommittee and NORML's letter in yesterday's Washington Post by visiting norml.org. Virginia residents are urged to contact their House delegates today. If your delegate is one of the members of the House Courts of Justice Criminal Subcommittee, then it is especially important that he or she hears from you today. Phone and email contact information for these members is available at norml.org. A pre-written letter will be emailed to your Virginia House member when you go to norml.org. Finally, those seeking to attend Wednesday's hearing in Richmond should contact Sabrina at Virginia NORML at sabrina@norml.org. for further information. You can also track the legislative progress on this effort on Facebook at facebook.com/VANormal. It's time for your Daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420-friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Our PodSafe music is donated by freedom-loving musicians who support our goal of ending adult marijuana prohibition. Today we bring you tunes for Electric Tuesday, our segment featuring the best of modern electronic music in the genres of dance, new age, house, and electronica. Brought to you by Sarah Kant Photography. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on NORML Show Live, send it to us at stash@norml.org. Now, here's some great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tune. All right, our volunteer music editors do great work for us, bringing us some pod-safe music in the 420-friendly genres. Today is Electric Tuesday, and we go all the way up to Boston, Massachusetts to talk with Sarah Kant. Sarah, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Russ. How are you today?
I am doing fabulous, and how are things for you up in the Northeast?
Kind of warm.
Oh, glad to have it. So tell us about the tune that we'll be hearing today.
Well, from the city of Pretoria in South Africa, but now living in Tauranga, New Zealand, Antibody is Dominic Dumay's experimental dance project. Within it, he draws from and explores all dance genres from house to hardcore techno. Green Fever, Stoned Mix, was created in 2001, a year after Antibody was formed. a chilled-out dance track with ambient and experimental influences and a somewhat underground sound. This song is a tribute to, quote, the sweet and maligned Mary Jane, unquote. Dominic uses Jack Webb, Bill Clinton, and other samples to create a multi-layered drumming bass beat perfect to listen to while you choke. By day, Dominic is a computer programmer and runs antibody software at antibody-software.com. Is antibody his favorite word? Possibly. Antibody can be found on GarageBand and mp3.com at username antibody for both.
All right, that sounds good to me. We're listening now to Antibody with Green Fever Stoned Mix. Thanks a lot, Sarah.
You're very welcome.
That's Antibody with Green Fever Stoned Mix for our Electric Tuesday tune.
Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Friends, it's time we legalize the responsible use of marijuana in and stop treating marijuana smokers like criminals. We're destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of good, hard-working Americans every year in this country for no good reason. There's absolutely nothing wrong with smoking pot. For more information on how you can help legalize marijuana, please contact NORML at NORML.org.
Starfish Designs, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527. California has long been the epicenter of marijuana law reform in the United States. Every Tuesday, we're joined by Eric Brenner, the producer of the California Marijuana Report, for an interview with an important figure in cannabis in the Golden State. You can hear the entire California Marijuana Report online at California NORML's site, canormal.org, and Beverly Hills NORML at normal90210.org. Now, here with another great interview is Eric Brenner.
Thanks, Radical Russ. The Golden State still reeling from a unanimous California Supreme Court ruling on Thursday, which struck down a law that sought to impose limits on the amount of marijuana a medical patient can legally possess. The court ruled that state lawmakers were wrong to change provisions of the voter-approved Proposition 215, the measure which allowed patients with a doctor's recommendation to possess an unspecified amount of marijuana. The legislators seeking to give law enforcement guidance on when to make marijuana possession arrests mandated in 2003 that each patient could have a maximum of 8 ounces of dried marijuana. The High Court says only voters can change amendments that they've added to California's Constitution through the initiative process. Now, to discuss this landmark ruling here in California, we're joined by someone who is part of the royal family of marijuana criminal defense attorneys here in the state, criminal defense attorney Allison Margolin. Allison, welcome to NORML Live.
Thank you.
We have a lot of confusion around this ruling. Some people are very happy. There are some patients now that are very nervous. Why is that the case?
Well, basically what the state of the law is now is that if a patient has a recommendation for more than 8 ounces or for more than 6 mature or 12 immature plants, they can possess that quantity. Let's assume a patient doesn't have a recommendation for more than 8 ounces. They still can prevail even if they have more marijuana than 8 ounces if their doctor is prepared to testify that the amount that they had was consistent with their medical needs. And this actually is just a restatement of what the law has always been. It's just that like I said in the LA Times article, it does change the perception by district attorneys of what the law is, but the state of the law was already like this. There were 2 cases that preceded this, the Windus case and the Wright case, that both confirmed that under the Compassionate Use Act, patients have the right to possess an amount that's reasonable for their needs, not just 8 or 12 plants. Now, the decision also does one other thing, and what it does is preserve the safe harbor guidelines that were supposed to be in place in the first place. Now, how it was supposed to work was that if someone possessed 6 mature or 12 immature plants or had a doctor's recommendation for more, they would be allowed to possess that and not be arrested if they had what's called a state-issued ID card. And this decision also confirms that if people possess the state-issued ID card, they could be immune from arrest if they had below the guidelines.
Let's talk about this state-issued ID card. I am a medical marijuana patient myself, of course, and I got my recommendation from Medican, which I'm sure is an organization you're familiar with. That is not a state-issued ID card. Am I at risk?
Well, you're at risk if you're at risk of getting arrested and dealing with the unfortunate reality of being prosecuted and, making bail, etc., if you're found in possession of really any amount of marijuana. Basically what people need to do is, if they don't mind being on the state list, and of course I think that's the reason most people are reluctant to really do this, but if someone's growing marijuana at all, I would advise them, go to the LA County Department of Health or whatever their Department of Health is, show them their recommendation, get a state-issued card from the Department of Health. That will prevent you from getting arrested even. And also, the other thing that people don't realize is if you do get arrested anyway, you actually have a motion to suppress the evidence because you were illegally arrested. So the ID card, I would encourage people to get the ID card. It protects people against prosecution, but it doesn't protect them against arrest. You're going to get arrested if you have marijuana on you, but when you go to court, you're going to have you're going to have a defense. You're going to have the same defense you would if you had the state-issued card. The issue is that you're going to be arrested.
Allison, this is really breaking news on many fronts to me. I am absolutely stunned to hear this. And I think many people who have this Medican card or these type of cards feel that they are immune from arrest. This is just not the case, you're telling me.
Right. Basically, the only way you can be immune from arrest is by getting the state-issued card. And people under this misperception because these different organizations issue cards. So people feel, oh, I have a card, that's going to protect me from being arrested. No, it will not. The only thing that will protect you from being arrested is the state-issued ID card, and you can only get that from your local Department of Health.
How difficult is it to obtain the state-issued ID card?
It's very simple. I mean, I don't have one myself, probably for the same reason a lot of us are reluctant to be on a government list, even though we tell everyone, broadcast to whoever's listening to this, yes, I'm a medical marijuana patient. A lot of us are still reluctant to get the card, but it doesn't require anything. All you have to do is go to the Department of Health, show them your recommendation, they verify it, and that's the whole story. Now, the one kind of problem can occur in this following way. Let's say someone has a recommendation for, let's say, 3 pounds, okay? And the doctor says they can have up to 3 pounds. Well, even under the safe harbor guidelines, you should be able to be immune from arrest because your doctor has recommended more, okay? The problem is that the ID cards, so far as I've seen, have not been able to specify the amount. So the problem is a patient who possesses more than 8 ounces, even where they have a recommendation for more, the state-issued ID card doesn't have any kind of written information regarding that provision. So that's a little bit of the problem. Someone who's possessing a higher quantity, even where they have a recommendation to do so, or even where they have an ID card, they still might get arrested because the ID program has not become sophisticated enough to indicate the quantity allowed on the actual card. It is upsetting that the public doesn't realize this, and this, tell you this, it does kind of change things because before there was supposed to be an immunity from arrest, but that was kind of unclear whether or not there was immunity from arrest. Now we know. If you have a state-issued card, you should have an immunity from arrest, which, like I said, also gives you a vehicle to try to suppress the evidence if it's discovered.
Allison, let's get back to this ruling last Thursday here in California. Is this overall a good thing, what happened last Thursday?
Overall, it is a good thing because, of course, it affirms that everyone's rights under the Compassionate Use Act are not somehow abridged by SB 420, which was basically a legislature amendment to give patients more rights. And what these district attorneys were doing was using it as a vehicle to abridge rights, okay, which was, of course, contrary to the point of the law. It is a good thing overall, but it's important to realize what we're left with. And what we're left with is still a very confusing mess. We're left with a law that says you can have whatever is consistent with your medical needs, what's reasonable for your medical needs. But unfortunately, because of the Controlled Substances Act, we have very little research on what's appropriate for medical needs. Now, the good news is that the one study that exists came from the federal government. It's called the Investigational New Drug Program Study. And it also came from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. And this study was basically developed after the federal government decided to give about approximately 8 patients medical marijuana. And this was this little provision under the Controlled Substances Act that allowed the federal government to do this. And based on their studies and based on the information and based on what they give to patients, we know that an average patient consumes about 6.5 pounds of marijuana a year. Now, our experts will testify that if someone is eating marijuana or preparing tinctures, they're going to need 2 to 4 times that amount. So even though the reality of the decision is that we're left with this mess and this reasonableness standard, the good news is that the reasonableness standard is on our side. We can justify 24 pounds a year if someone's consuming marijuana solely by edibles. So that's the good news, that if you hire a good lawyer, you get a marijuana expert, you look at the studies that are available on what a reasonable dosage is, that you can justify very large quantities, and that's obviously a great thing for all patients.
Talk to me about Steve Cooley and the mess in Los Angeles right now. This district attorney, Cooley, is very high on closing every cannabis dispensary in the county. What is the latest with this situation?
Well, I'm happy you asked because it's a very horrific reality, and people have no idea what's going on. People have this idea that everyone is growing and smoking, and everyone's going to be growing unlimited numbers of marijuana, and they're going to be having their dispensaries making millions of dollars. No, the reality is that the district attorney not only wants to close down the dispensaries. But they are insistent on giving only felony offers to all these poor people. So you have someone who's busted with a pound of marijuana, just opened a dispensary. They want them to be a felon. That means that they lose their right to bear arms. That means that they have trouble getting a job in the future. So he's portrayed this as simply, oh, we want to clean up Los Angeles. No. When I go into court on these cases, they don't offer me community service and a misdemeanor or close down and we'll let the guy go. They want felons. And they're trying to create another new class of felons, another new class of people on felony probation. And this all is in the context of a prison system that is so overcrowded that right now we're under a federal mandate to start releasing prisoners. And yet the district attorney still is insistent on this war against marijuana, aggressively wanting to give people felonies. And giving people felonies means they're on felony probation. And when you're on felony probation, you have search terms, and ultimately you go to state prison. So it's very, very unfortunate how the district attorney has attempted to make marijuana a very high priority. And it's really up to the public to start writing letters to Cooley and say, look, if you continue to do this, we know what's going on, you're not going to get reelected. We want you to go after kidnappers and rapists and murderers, and we are disgusted by this war on marijuana. We're disgusted that our very little resources are being used to prosecute marijuana cases. To the degree that just recently I won a case involving a pound of marijuana that the guy, he said he was selling to a dispensary. The district attorney is appealing the dismissal. It was dismissed at a preliminary hearing. So they're going to great lengths to prosecute.
So, Radical Russ, a mixed bag here in the Golden State. We have an out-of-control district attorney named Steve Cooley. He's looking to shut down every medical marijuana dispensary in the county and filing felony charges against the owners of these dispensaries. On the other side, a terrific ruling from the California Supreme Court last Thursday affirming the rights of medical marijuana patients and striking down the plant limits set by the state legislator a few years back. In San Francisco for NORML Live, I'm Eric Brenner. Back to you, Radical Russ in Oregon.
Never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
Cause the day was hard and your work was long and you need a break from all that's wrong. You better look at the clock cause it's 4:19. Time to reach in that pocket for your bag of green and smoke that weed. Smoke that weed. Smoke that weed. Smoke that
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit MarijuanaIsSafer.com. NORML stands for Reforming America's Prohibitionist Marijuana Laws, and that cannot happen without directly engaging our government and elected officials. Local NORML chapters and other affiliated activists relentlessly lobby our lawmakers for change we can believe in and report on their strategies and progress in this segment we call Our Government at Work. All right, for Government at Work today, we are going to go to the great state of Indiana. I was contacted by a gentleman out there who is running for a Senate seat in the state Senate. His name's Jeff Ellison, and he joins us by Skype today. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Russ. I'm glad to be here.
What is the district seat you're running for, and what party are you running under?
District 26 as a Democrat.
Okay. Is that seat currently held by a Democrat,
Delaware.
or are you running for a Republican seat? Or
It's currently held by Democrat Sue Arrington.
Okay. So this will be a primary challenge to the incumbent, and I assume the reason that we're talking today is because you've got some views that might be something that our listeners would like to hear about. Tell folks about your candidacy and how marijuana plays a role in it.
Well, I'm a sufferer of chronic pancreatitis, so I understand the pain issue. Luckily, I had experimental surgery and I no longer need painkillers. But I've always been a marijuana smoker. I've always felt it was my right. I don't feel that the government has the right to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong if I'm doing it at home.
All right. Now, with a stance like that, you're running in Indiana, which is the home of Representative Mark Souder, one of the most rabid prohibitionist, anti-marijuana people in the United States Congress. What is the political landscape like for you there, and do you anticipate that your views on marijuana will make it difficult for you to run for this seat?
Luckily, I'm a well-known entertainer in the area, and I'm a musician, so I've got a little bit of a following, and I've been pushing this issue and telling people that I was going to run for quite a long time, and nobody took me seriously. I do believe they're going to try to crucify me and make me look stupid, but I'm going to turn that around on them.
All right. We're looking forward to it. We're speaking with Jeff Ellison from the state of Indiana, who's running for a Democratic seat in the state Senate there. And Jeff, before we get too far into the interview, let's let people know your website or other ways they can contact you if they want to support your candidacy.
My website is bjeffellison, ELLISON.org, and there's also jeffellison.net. But bjeffellison.org is my main political site where people can go and donate. Because right now I'm running on absolutely zero funds, and I don't know if anybody, if our state Senator Evan Bayh has got $13 million to run on, and I'm starting out with zero. And a $300 website. So I'm going from there.
Well, that's the way we like to see people running for office that aren't, professional politicians that are looking for the people to support them. I completely support that.
Well, I ran for Delaware County Council here in Muncie, Indiana, back in 2008 from a hospital bed when I was having that experimental surgery with no exposure other than MySpace and the Muncie Free Press, and got 17% of the vote. So I think I stand a chance.
Well, all right. Everybody stands a chance here. This is America, man. You can do it.
That's right.
Now, as you were running for state Senate, what sort of legislation would you propose in the Indiana State Senate with regards to marijuana prohibition?
I think it should be made completely legal, whether medical or otherwise, across the country. And I'm glad that they passed that Bill 714, well, not passed the Bill 714, but it made it through the Senate, so that's a start.
So you think...
I haven't got to read the whole thing yet.
So you're someone who's in support of full legalization, but do you think that's really a politically practical step in Indiana, or would you start with something a little more tame?
I figure we shoot for the high one and maybe settle for the low one.
A classic negotiation ploy. I like that idea. Now, you had mentioned that you're a medical user of marijuana. Can you tell people a little bit about that story, and have you ever suffered any repercussions from law enforcement because of your use?
No, actually, I haven't. Back in 2004, when I first got diagnosed with chronic pancreatitis, I spent 45 days in the hospital with no food or water. I was hooked up to a PICC line and fed intravenously, and morphine wasn't controlling my pain, and the hospital wouldn't get, they weren't giving me anything else. And so, I was tired of the pain, and the only thing that was making me feel better was when I would go outside and sneak a joint. Mm-hmm. And, the nurse came back in, and, she asked me, because I smelled like, marijuana smoke. She goes, "Have you been outside smoking?" And I said, "Well, yeah." Said, "It's the only thing that works." And she said, "Well, I can't condone it, but I understand it." And she said if it was legal, we'd be behind you 100%. And I've had police officers tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've had police officers tell me if it was legal, they would smoke.
Yeah, we've heard that many times here at NORML, the typical line of, I don't make the laws, I just enforce them, coming from law enforcement.
Yeah, that do as I say, not as I do thing. I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. Aside from, you had mentioned in your background that you were a professional musician. That's something we share in common. Before coming to NORML, I played music professionally in Idaho, so we're both from I states, I suppose. What in your background is preparing you
I'm
now?
originally from California.
Oh, okay. Originally from Cali. I know that in my background of being a professional musician and working in bars for a long time, I learned a whole lot about people, and I learned about the devastation that alcohol and other drugs can have on people. And it kind of motivated me to want to stand up for cannabis. What in your background as a musician or otherwise do you think is preparing you for dealing with politics at the State House?
The fact that I can look at somebody and be honest with them, and they can look back at me and know that I'm not lying to them. Mm-hmm. I've got nothing to gain. I'm out to do this for the people of my district and the people of the state. I don't have any plans on being a career politician, but I've been blogging, screaming my head off for 3 years with oil, and hemp seed can be turned into oil. It can be fuel, it can be paper. I'm preaching to the choir here.
That's okay.
Russ,
that's okay. Some of the choir doesn't know all the words yet, so that's okay. Hey, we're speaking with Jeff Ellison, who's a candidate for the Democratic primary in a district for the Indiana State Senate. And Jeff, give out your website addresses again. Some of our people in the chat room are having trouble getting onto them.
B as in Brian, Jeff, Jeff, Ellison, ELLISON.org.
All right, bjeffellison.org, running for Senate in Indiana. And, hey, we want to thank you for calling in here to the stash. Before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to tell the folks?
Yeah, if they want to donate also and they want to get some good music, they can go to 1001.com or iTunes and check out 1001. I'm Twittering the spelling right now.
Okay. And your Twitter address, is that also bjeffellison?
I think it's just Jeffrey Ellison.
Jeffrey Ellison on Twitter. All right. We'll put all that up in the stash room for people to get a hold of. And Jeff, once again, thanks for joining us here on NORML Show Live. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Russ. Hope to talk to you soon.
All right. We sure do. Thanks a lot, Jeff. We appreciate getting you on the line. And I want to encourage folks, we hear this a lot from people. They say, oh, politicians suck. The government sucks. Well, guess whose fault that is? You. That's right. You're the one who's voting or not voting for these people to be in office. You're the one who's running or not running for office. You can do it. If we want to see some changes in adult marijuana prohibition, we need to take a page out of the playbook of the conservative movement from the 1960s and the 1970s. Those of you who know your political background will know that there was a time when conservatism was dead in this country. And what they did is they went from the grassroots. They started joining school boards and local district councils and neighborhood committees and city councils and state legislatures and built themselves a movement from the ground up. People out there that think, oh, well, when is NORML going to legalize marijuana? That's not the way it works, folks. Prohibition started state by state in this country, and that's the way it's going to be overturned. No magical weed fairy is going to come down from Washington, D.C., wave a wand, and suddenly make marijuana legal. It's going to take a lot of hard work at the city level, at the county level, at the state level, before it ever gets anywhere on the federal level. So if you've got a problem with marijuana being illegal, you need to do something about it. You need to start writing your legislators. You need to start calling them and faxing them. You need to join your own local branch of NORML or whatever marijuana organization you want to be a part of. I'm not particular. I don't care what acronym is behind your name as long as your name is down on the list for fighting against this war. You know, I look at the different organizations kind of like the armed forces. You know, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. What a great place to start. They have their own competition with each other, their own kind of rivalries. But when it all comes down to the bottom line, they're all fighting for the United States of America, just like we are. I'm going to go back to the phones here and see if I can get Carrie on the line. I think she's still out there listening to us. I'll give her a chance to pick up the mic. Carrie, how's everything going in the chat room? Do we have any conversations I need to pick up on?
You know, we just have a ton of questions. I actually put out, does anyone have a question for Russ? And it was like Dr. Mitch all over again. So we're going to have a question and answer sometime on the show here because people have a lot of things to ask you, Radical Russ.
Well, I'll tell you what, folks, if you got questions to ask, a good time to do that will be this Saturday. We are having a special edition of NORML Show Live Saturday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time. And I know that's 10 Eastern and it's kind of late for you Easties, but hey, 7 p.m. Pacific time till whenever, 2 hours, 3 hours, we don't know. We're going to come to you live from Oregon NORML's world-famous Cannabis Cafe because we are celebrating my 42nd birthday.
Happy birthday.
That's right. So it's going to be a big old birthday party for us there at live.normal.org, and you can join us as well. We'll be glad to have you there asking questions and getting all that information out to you. It'll be a fun little party. You'll get to see a little bit of the Cannabis Cafe, and it's going to be kind of a free-form show. So I'll be glad to be taking questions throughout the chat lines, and we'll get to work on that. Also, those of you who are enjoying the video feeds here, I've had some people ask me about, can we get Carrie on the video feed? Carrie, what do you think about that?
I think NORML would have to pay a little more for hair and makeup. No, I'm just kidding. I just have to get some more equipment. I'm due to update my equipment. I've just never owned a webcam, so I'm going to have to march on down to Radio Shack. I live in a small community, so sometimes I have to drive a little ways to get to those box stores. But I will get a webcam, and I'll get up there eventually.
Yeah, folks, when we took on this show here to the new Stick'em stream, we brought it here mainly for the great audio quality. We were looking to run a radio show that we were already running elsewhere, and the audio quality was phenomenal. The webcam was just kind of a bonus. I mean, we weren't even really thinking about what we would do for video, so I kind of put together a backdrop and got my camera going here. We'll have Carrie in on the cam as soon as we can get that technology worked out. I hope to also do interviews by webcam through Skype and be able to get that feed on as well, so when I'm talking to someone, you can see them as we're talking. Also want to make note of the Cannapalooza. Folks have been asking me about Cannapalooza. This is taking place at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, Nevada, March 19th through the 21st, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's a 3-day exposition of all things marijuana. You'll want to be there at the Mandalay Bay. And NORML Show Live will be coming to you from that Cannapalooza. I am emceeing and am in charge of the speakers panel, which runs from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock Pacific time, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, March 19th through 21st. 3-hour shows. We'll be broadcasting NORML Show Live for all 3 hours of the Speakers Forum. You'll get to see all the presentations as they're happening live in Las Vegas, as well as my presentations, interviews with the speakers, and our special guest flying in from Nashville, Tennessee. Chief Greenbud will be our house band, providing some great acoustic guitar music, all 420 friendly tunes, lots of them that you'll hear here at the NORML Daily Audio Stash and NORML Show Live. Speaking of the Stash, we archive these live shows every day for podcast at stash.normal.org. It's called the NORML Daily Audio Stash. Look at stash.normal.org on the right-hand sidebar. About halfway down the page, you'll find the big green Stash player. You can get a copy of every single show we've ever done here at NORML Show Live. For Cannabis Carrie and everyone here at the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, I'm Radical Russ, reminding you that we've got another hour of random tunes and chat right after this show, and we always start the show an hour early with music and chat as well at live.normal.org. We're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
You
This is NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Take it out one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you